Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to Dr. B's Tech Talk. I'm Dr. B. On this channel, the goal is to provide you with insights about all things technology related, including career and educational advice, from the perspective of my 40 years as a tech geek with over 30 years of professional experience. Without any further ado, let's get started with today's topic. Today, we're going to talk about who is Dr. B and how did I get here? My technical story. Well, going back to the early 80s, it started literally from when I saw the movie War Games in 1983. I was completely fascinated and taken in by all of the different technology amazement that that movie provided. Immediately, I asked my parents for a personal computer, and they obliged and ended up purchasing me an Atari. And yeah, you may say Atari. Atari was known for video game consoles during that time, but they also made personal computers. So my first computer was an Atari 400 computer that you hooked to the TV. A couple years after that, I got a little more advanced and I graduated to the mighty Commodore 64, which anybody who was around in the mid 80s and dealing with personal computers can tell you that that was kind of the cream of the crop. And so the rest was history from there. I'm a product of Chicago Public Schools, as I'm a kid from the South Side, born and raised. And during high school, I was pleasantly surprised to find out that my high school actually offered computer programming languages, and I could not wait to jump in. My freshman year, I wasn't eligible to take any, so I took a typing class because I wanted to get prepared for what was ahead with computer programming. But from my sophomore through my senior years, I ended up taking and learning how to program in BASIC, Pascal, and COBOL. So all of by the time that I was 16 years old, I had three programming languages under my belt. Even more impressive is that the two teachers that I had who taught me these programming languages were Black male teachers. And in the mid 80s, in a field like technology and computer science, this was probably unheard of. But it gave me the confidence through their representation that I could build a successful career in a computer related field. From there, I went ahead and graduated high school and I entered college as a computer science major. So, one stopping point here, one of the ironies about me being a computer science major is that I absolutely despise math. Wasn't good at it, ran from it, didn't like it, but I only took classes with math up through pre-calculus or slash college algebra in high school because I was told I would need it for computer science. Now, I didn't personally agree with this because I was good working with computers and computer languages and things, and I still wasn't good with math. There was some sort of disconnect. This will come up later, so stay tuned on that note. But I entered college and I started my track as a computer science major, taking other computer programming classes like C, C++. Sophomore year, I took a Fortran programming class and it might have broke me. It might just be that I got to a point where I started to realize that maybe I did need the math. But overall, it was just something where I was questioning if I wanted to sit and write computer code all day, every day. You know, it was a challenging thing to do on an in and out basis. And having done so for the past 5, 6, 7 years, I got a little burned out. Well, throughout that journey, I ended up switching schools and switched schools and then switched schools again. And as I spent time trying to find myself, I remained a computer science major, but something strange happened. So, um, probably at the time when I was close to finishing up my bachelor's degree, I probably had about 100 and I believe I had 110 credit hours, something like that. I was a semester away from being done. I was working at the Olive Garden as a cook and as a bartender while I was still going to school full time. And one of my old college roommates came and grabbed me and pulled me and kind of forced me to go to this college fair or job fair at a community college. I went a little skeptically. when I got there, I wasn't really pleased to find that there wasn't a lot of options there. You had people lined up for UPS and Ford because those were the companies that, were paying money for jobs immediately. That was paying a pretty decent wage for, students in the age range of 18 to 24. But I was looking for something more than that. Well, I started wandering around the gym, and as I did so, I ran across a table that had a computer brochure on the table. And upon talking to the two women that were sitting there manning the table, I learned that the company was a software company that wrote software to replace the manual forms that you filled out when filling out an insurance policy or for insurance. And they computerized that. And they were looking for different types of roles, one which included training someone to learn how to use their software or aspects of their software, and then being the person who would troubleshoot issues for their customers around the world who had issues. I was hooked. The concept of being able to sit in front of a computer and tinker all day, help people, and get paid was an amazing concept to me. Now, at the time, as I said, I was working at the Olive Garden. I was working as a cook and as a bartender. I made $7.50 an hour plus, and then as when I bartended, I made about $2 an hour plus tips. This job was going to pay me $10 an hour, and they trained me for 8 weeks to learn their software, fully paid. And so I gave my notice to Olive Garden, and thus began my computer career. And as I dived into this new concept of what technical support was, I found out that I was actually pretty good at it, so much so that I became one of the top techs at that company within a year. Like, I really had a knack for being able to communicate with customers and teach them how to go about fixing their issues over the phone. Now, this was before remote control tools where you could take over someone's screen, so everything had to be done pretty much through the phone, but I did very well. During the time that I was working there, I met some great people. One of my colleagues had left, and he told me, he said, "Man, you're good at this. And when I get settled to where I'm going, I'm going to call for you." And I just kind of thought, something nice for people to say. But 3 months later, he gave me a call. I had been at the insurance company, software company for about a year, and he gave me a call. And he offered me a position making $15 an hour. All right, doing the same thing, but the company was a little further out. I had to travel out to the western suburbs, but for $15 an hour, I figured it was a great opportunity, so I jumped at it. And again, I found even more confirmed that I was pretty good at tech support. I had a knack for it. It was something that was kind of second nature to me. And so um, during this time, I continued to work and to grow. And this was the tech boom of the mid 90s. So there were a lot of technical jobs out there. It was plentiful. You could really pick and choose from. And interestingly, I had one of my colleagues who had been in the industry for about 5 years at that point, tell me, once you get 2 years of experience, of solid experience under your belt, you can write your own ticket. And I got to tell you, I got to the 2 year mark and the offers started flooding in. So after a year at the second company, I got an opportunity to work for a consulting firm who consulted out contracts, and they were looking for technicians to work for a real estate investment firm downtown. Well, there were a couple perks with this. One, I was making $24 an hour. So I'd gone from making $7.50 an hour 2 years prior working at the Olive Garden to making $24 an hour as an entry-level computer technician. Being downtown, I didn't have to drive anymore. I could catch the train back and forth. And so I jumped at the opportunity. Getting in there, again, it just further cemented how well-rounded I was in this particular field, and that I had a solid future in being able to do so. And part of the confidence in that led me to actually go to management of the company I had been with after 3 months. I started there in June of 1997, and in close to October, I went to them because we had learned through another consultant who worked with the consulting firm previously that, even though they were paying us a nice wage at $24 an hour, In many cases, they were billing us out at as much as, or as little as $50 an hour, and sometimes up to $75 an hour. Well, I had a bright idea because along with me, I had three other colleagues who had come from the previous company we were at, and we were all working consultants at this real estate investment firm. So my idea was, hey, why not go directly to management and say, instead of you using a consulting firm, you can hire us directly as 1099 consultants. You pay us $40 an hour, you'll save money from what you're paying the consulting firm. We'll make more money, you still get the same high level quality of work, and everybody's happy. Put that in front of them, and they said no. Now, they didn't say no because it was a bad idea. They said no because they had made a decision along the same time that given the cost of what they were paying, they wanted to just deal with in-house full-time employees instead. And so instead, they offered me a full-time role as a help desk technician, making $55,000 a year with full benefits. Now, a big thing for me at that time was that my oldest daughter was almost 2 months away or 2 weeks away from being born. And so the idea of having benefits, health insurance, etc., was a definite push for me. And I jumped at the chance, not to mention another significant pay raise. Okay, so that brought me to that real estate investment firm, and I ended up working there for 24 years. And over the course of those 24 years, I worked my way up from the entry-level junior help desk technician to the vice president of global technical support for the entire company. And in that role, I was responsible for all aspects of technology, including communications, video conferencing, etc., for all of the worldwide offices that we had. I eventually got to a point where I made a six-figure salary. I traveled the world to places like Hong Kong, Tokyo, Korea, Germany, London, Warsaw, and many other locations. It was a great, great opportunity. It also afforded me the opportunity to work with a lot of different technologies. The company was about 350 to 400 people in size, and as a result of how it was structured, I always had opportunities to work on the latest and the greatest technology that was coming up because I was kind of the solutions guy. And so I would take on whatever task, whatever new technology came, and I would throw myself into it. And as a result, it afforded me a lot of great opportunities. Towards the end of my tenure there, which was kind of during the pandemic, I had started to get a feel that, despite the great pay and the perks, I needed something more. There was something missing in the whole experience. And, my lack of time, one of the things, for instance, is that probably for the last 5 to 7 years that I worked there, I always lost vacation time. At one point, it wasn't an issue because they would let you roll it over. They changed the policy, and then at some point, you would lose your time. So I would lose anywhere from 10 to 15 days per year because between my travel schedule and everything that was going on, I couldn't take vacation and still have things run properly. So that became problematic. And the other part is that I really had a need to want to do something more. With all I had learned over the years, I wanted to give back in this market because this is still a field that the representation of Black and brown men and women is very low. And so for me, I wanted to try to improve that because, as I said, it provided me with a great opportunity and a great lifestyle. And I wanted to teach others how they could go about achieving similar career success. So I stepped out on faith and I walked away from that position with the intention to work as a consultant on my own, advising small businesses and home users. And then something funny happened. An opportunity came to my door. I got a call from, out of all places, a math institute at the University of Chicago who was looking for a director of information technology. And initially, honestly, I wasn't even going to take the interview. And I told my wife and other people about it, and they said, whoa, this is University of Chicago. You must take that interview. And so I did. And I was hired. And that was July of 2021. And that is the current position I am still in. And I have to tell you that the change and the pace of the energy from corporate America to higher education was a godsend. It was the best thing that I didn't know I needed. It put me exactly in the place where I wanted to be, in a position where I could give back in a more meaningful way than I had done so in corporate America. It also inspired me to go back to school. Now, mind you, if you go back to the beginning of my journey, I actually stopped with one semester to go with my bachelor's degree. But while I was at the real estate investment firm, they actually paid for my last semester. I had been there about 10 years, so that was 2007, and I did complete my bachelor's degree. But being at the University of Chicago in the role at the Math Institute inspired me to go back and get my master's degree. And upon doing so and getting my master's in information technology management, I was then afforded an opportunity to become an adjunct professor at a local community college, which is a further step in being able to directly impact some of the current learners and people trying to break into the IT industry. From there, since I had decided to go ahead and get my master's and I was working in higher ed, I figured, why not pursue my doctorate? And so that's exactly what I did. And just recently, I completed my doctorate in business administration with a concentration in information technology from South College in Knoxville, Tennessee. So officially, I am Dr. Bernard Davis Jr. My dissertation topic is unlocking potential, exploring the success factors and barriers of Black American men working in technology careers in the United States. So all of these things, I hope to be able to share the wisdom, the stories, and the anecdotes of what made me successful, things that I may do different, and things that I think can help all of you pursue an amazing career in this industry. There's a lot of unknown and untapped opportunities. And if we can share those stories with one another, we can empower the next generation to become better and go further than we ever could. So if you like this kind of content, I hope that you'll decide to check in on my channel. You can hit the subscribe button, and by doing so, you'll get reminded every time I post a new video. So until next time, this is Dr. B signing out. I wish you peace, health, and prosperity. Peace.